Today is all about kind of discovering the posture of humility. She starts with a quote by Brennan Manning that says, "To live by grace means to acknowledge my whole life story, the light side and the dark. In admitting my shadow side, I learn who I am and what God's grace means. As Thomas Merton puts it, a saint is not someone who is good, but who experiences the goodness of God." I love that. What do you guys think about having a posture of humility? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's a really nice idea, and sometimes less easy. I loved when Kashat said, humans are so very human. I am so very human. And so it's a nice idea to have a posture of humility, less easy, especially with my kids. Sometimes those we love drive us the most crazy. And so
Absolutely.
having a posture of humility with those that I love most is the most challenging for me.
Yeah, we find ourselves being more honest, right, with those who are closest to us, and so we reveal everything about us, and so that including our anger or frustrations, and so yeah, I'm with you there in terms of, how do we find a true posture of humility, and not be a doormat, because growing up in my faith background, the idea was just to lay down, let everyone do whatever they wanted to you, and it's like that's not healthy either, right? I can't just be a doormat for everyone to walk on. So how do I create a space, to have a posture of humility, but yet, I don't know, have some, backbone, or have some, not let people walk all over me. Like the story she talked about on the shuttle bus, right? This angry man who, wants to have his way and he doesn't at the end, right?
Yeah. One of the kind of key tenets of St. Matthew, whenever I first came, that people talked about was having a theological humility, right? That, and I love this idea. It's part of what drew me here of, because I do think often we come into spaces just feeling like we're right, even with our kids, right? Like when I'm yelling at my kids, I'm yelling at them because I think I'm right. And often we do that without taking in the broader, more complex story around us. She quotes Dallas Willard saying that when God speaks to us, it does not prove that we are righteous or even right. It doesn't even prove that we have correctly understood what he said. The infallibility of the messenger and the message does not guarantee the infallibility of our reception. That humility is always in order. And I think there's this space for me of just the fact that you can acknowledge that it's hard, right, is part of what she's talking about in this passage. That imagine that I could be wrong. Imagine that, oh wait, I may not have the full story. Imagine that as I enter into every scenario, I do so with like having put on a cloak of humility and saying like, wait, like this person might know more about this than I do. And what would it look like to listen more than I speak?
And that's the key, I think, is listen. This happens all the time with me and Elias. And we'll get into some argument about something. And I'll say, Dad, you're not even listening to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm listening, but maybe not listening the way he wants me to do. And I'm not hearing him, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, this posture of humility has to be a posture where we're listening. We don't have the answers. We don't have the solutions, but instead, we're trying to be in relationship with one another, and listening takes that first step to get there.
Yeah, and what nudge do I need to do to actually remember to put that posture on, or take that posture of humility in the moment? Mm-hmm. Just settle down, Tam.
Yeah, and I think it is one of those things that the more you do it too, the more it becomes a part of you.
Like
right?
a muscle to be stretched.
Yeah, like I think about the people who I know that I would say, man, this person is truly humble. Like I think about Jerry Hansen, right? Like when I encounter Jerry Hansen, I encounter Jerry Hansen as a truly humble man. And I think Jerry would tell us, I haven't always been there, right? Like it's taken me time to get to that place and to open myself up to it. And so I think that's the challenge of this place. practice for today. She says Philippians 2 describes this shocking contrast between Jesus's godness and his willing lowness, a posture Paul tells us to emulate. So she invites us to read all 30 verses of Philippians 2, and after reading it one time, go back and highlight the evidence that you see of humility. Then turn the evidence into a short bulleted list describing what a person with humility exhibits. Then consider your own life. What is one action that you can take today that emulates one of the postures that we see in Jesus in that passage? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.